You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
the Learning Style Zone.
There's actually a few different versions, actually many different versions of learning styles, but probably the most common ones, the one that you've heard of, is that some of us are auditory learners, where we learn best by listening to things.
Math is a really cool thing. So get off your act, let's do some math. Math, 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 math. 3 minus 4 is...
-1.
That's right. And 6 times a billion is...
6 billion?
Nailed it. And 54 is a 45 more than what is the answer, Marta?
9.
No, it's 8.
No, it's 9.
Yes, I was testing you. It's 9. And that's a magic number.
And that some of us are more visual learners, where we learn best by seeing things.
Once again, that's just my opinion. They're very, I don't want to say real unpleasant, but they bother me if they don't have a lot of depth in them. Because our world, the way I see it, has a lot of depth. And that's the way I like to see paintings.
And that some of us might be more tactile or kinesthetic learners, where we learn best by actually doing things or engaging in physical activities.
I know Kung Fu.
Show me.
How many of you have heard of that before? Well, the good news and bad news. Bad news is, if you believe in learning styles, you're actually wrong.
You're actually wrong.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
And I'll explain that in just a minute. But the good news is that it's not entirely your fault. This belief in learning styles is incredibly pervasive. It's so common that few people ever think to even question it, right? It sounds so logical. It sounds so real.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
But when put to the test, we found that learning styles don't exist. And again, there are tons of people that believe this. When we survey, for example, students and teachers, we find that something like 90% of them, or over 90% of people, believe that they have a learning style. And teachers today, many teachers are still told that part of their job, in order to be effective teachers, is to figure out what their students' learning styles are and then to accommodate them for the classroom.
And what is going on?
There are even a host of companies and organizations out there that support learning styles and who, for a fee, will train you on how to maximize your potential, or that of your students, right, by addressing learning styles and learning what yours are. But again, the key is, when put to the test, these learning styles don't exist, and it doesn't make a difference. Now, I will say that when we survey people, many people say they have preferences. So if I asked you, how would you like to learn something, or how would you like to study? Many of you might say things like, oh, I'd prefer to see it, or I'd prefer to hear it, or I'd prefer to actually do it. So that's true. But the key is that those preferences don't actually enhance your learning when we test them in experimental conditions. And there are many different ways to test this, but the basic design is this. We bring in a bunch of different people who have supposedly different learning styles. We teach them in a variety of ways, right? And then we see if teaching them in one way somehow was better for them or more effective than others. So for example, let's say I had a list of words that I wanted you to memorize, right? In one group, I might show you that list of words. I would present the list of words to you. Or in another group, similarly, I might actually show you images of those words. In yet another group or another condition, I might just let you listen to those words and hear them. So you wouldn't actually see anything, but you would just hear someone saying dog, hose, coat, etc. Now, if learning styles existed, if it was true, we would expect that visual learners, or so-called visual learners, would be able to recall more words when they saw them, right? So either when they saw the list or when they saw the actual images. And we would expect that so-called auditory learners would be able to recall more words when they heard them, right? But again, the finding is learning is actually the same. The number of words that you recall is exactly the same regardless of how the material is presented to you. Now, I know that's just one example of one particular study, but I'm asking you to trust me that this has been replicated in many different contexts with many different people of all different ages and tested in slightly different ways with exactly the same results. In fact, there have been several meta-analysis papers where they've looked at all the research on this topic for 40 years, and all of them have concluded the same thing, that there's still no evidence that matching teaching styles to supposed learning styles or students' preferences actually makes a difference.
You are my friend, you're special to me. There's only one in this wonderful world. You are special. It's not so much what we have in this life that matters. It's what we do with what we have. The alphabet is fine, but it's what we do with it that matters most. Making words like friend and love. That's what really matters.